Hey, welcome back, everybody. HSC Podcast number 40. Thanks for joining. Got the Big Box Steve on the mic, and of course, co-host the Big Smooth. If you are watching us YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like. If you want to leave comments, questions, anything else you'd like to hear us talk about, please let us know in the comments. But appreciate everybody listening. And if you're listening on Anchor or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, keep listening. Again, you can see us on YouTube. Leave some comments if you want to hear other content. So, talking football, of course. Just real quick, we've been talking a little bit of college football as it gets a little more exciting, a little closer in the year. But just that, the Oregon-Washington game, I know there's a lot of different things you can say about it, but just what was your thoughts, on that game? One, Oregon kind of just throws away their playoff chances by losing that game, pretty much. I mean, a lot of things could happen, they could potentially squeeze back in, but they need a lot of help, right? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, I mean, everyone like the coined the phrase is you couged it because the Cougars would always blow leads and everything. But I mean, the Ducks, this is like year after year where they're supposed to be good, they're supposed to make the playoffs, they're supposed to be this, and then they lose a game that they shouldn't lose, and this one's at home. Like, it was so funny. People were defending them for going for it on fourth. I'm like, come on, dude. Just like we've talked about this so many times. It's like you're on your own. Just punt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get their defense isn't playing well and hadn't played well the whole game. But yeah, you're at the end of the game. You're basically and you don't have Bo Nix in the game, first of all.
Yeah.
So that's even worse. Yeah, but yeah, punted away. They gotta make a long field goal in short time. They're only gonna have 30, 40 seconds to move the ball up the field, and I think it was just crazy. But that play it just blew my mind. That was one of the plays. The whole game I thought was really, really poorly coached on Lanning's side. It seemed like they're getting too fancy for no reason. It's like, just play your normal game. They're coming out with these different types of plays, going for it on fourth downs, and it's just like the one at the end of the half. It was just, what a waste. Yeah, they got it, but if you don't get it there, you're basically just giving up more points again.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a very poorly coached game. I think Oregon definitely hurt themselves on the field, but I think mostly they hurt themselves in the coaching side. And I know Dan Lanning, he took some credit for the loss himself, but I think a lot of that falls on him.
Yeah. It's learning curve for him. He's first year coach. We'll see how he is next year, but there's no way a 2-loss Pac-12 team makes the playoffs. It'd be like every other team would have to have 3 losses.
Well, you look at, so they got ranked Utah, right? They got ranked Oregon State now, and then they go to Pac-12 championship, play USC, who will be probably, they're ranked 6th right now.
Right.
So they have a hard enough schedule that you could argue for them being out a 2-loss team if another team had 2 losses. But that's like a lot of things would have to happen for them.
Right. Because I doubt TCU loses.
Right.
I doubt even if Georgia loses one game, they're going to get in. Then you would have a 1-loss Michigan or Ohio State team, 1-loss Tennessee team, 2-loss Alabama team even would be above them. I would think if Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, there's no way you could give it to Oregon.
Yeah, it's I don't even know if Alabama can go. I think doesn't LSU go to the championship game now?
Oh yeah. Well, LSU's got 1 loss too, so
right. Yeah. But yeah, and so I think Oregon definitely blew their chances with that game anyway. But yeah, just what a terrible way to lose your playoff, chances. So that was
they had to, all they had to do was they didn't need any help. If they would have just won their games, they would have got in.
Yeah, and I think they would just stuck to their game and played their game throughout the whole game. It's that the whole first half they were just doing wild stuff, and it's just like, what are you guys doing? I mean, yeah, it's a rivalry game, but you're still a better team. You're at home. Like, just do what you've been doing all year. You're trying to do all these fancy plays and turning the ball over, doing just wild stuff. So it was pretty crazy. So you got to feel sorry for all the Oregon fans out there. It's a tough loss, this late in the year for them. On the other side, Alabama beats Mississippi, kind of puts Mississippi out of the talk. Now you got teams like USC that, if they can win out and then beat, a team, maybe Oregon does go to the Pac-12 championship, then they beat a high-ranked Oregon team. That starts to look good for them. Even with their one loss. So
yeah, because Ohio State or Michigan's going to knock each other off.
Right. They both they play, right? So one of them has to lose.
So yeah, if you're a one-loss team, you're looking at that, and like that's where you got LSU and USC, because they'll both bump above Tennessee because they'll have a championship game.
Yeah, right. And Tennessee won't be able to go play in championship game. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting, I think, for how this plays out, and kind of excited to see the finish of the college season here. I don't feel like I know Georgia feels like they're kind of an outright favorite, but I feel like there's a lot of good teams this year. I don't feel like there's a lot of domination. Just Georgia hasn't looked great in certain games this year, so they have looked beatable.
Yeah, but in the big games, they haven't.
No, yeah, they've definitely dominated when they needed to. So yeah, good finish to the college season. So let's talk a little bit NFL. So week 10, this was a rough week. You had a pretty good week, so you led the way. I was 5-9. I think it's definitely my worst week of the year. There was a couple games that I took a big upset games. I knew I'd probably lose, but overall, like some of the other games, just didn't go the way that a lot of people thought. And I know obviously the Philadelphia, talk about that one. That's the first one that I don't think a lot of people had. Washington winning in Philadelphia.
Wes's favorite team, Washington.
Yeah. He didn't. I don't remember. He probably didn't pick him though.
No, he said he'd never pick Washington again the rest of the season.
Right, when he should have. So I guess that's one of the big surprises, right? That's a tough one to take. I think another big surprise for me anyway was Green Bay beating Dallas, because Green Bay was not looking very good for a while there.
Yeah, my neighbor across the street is a Dallas fan. We were talking, and I was like, "Oh, why aren't you watching the game?" And he's like, "Oh, it just came out for a little bit. They're up by 14." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Right.
And then I'm like, "What happened? What? It's overtime?"
Yeah, they Green Bay. I mean, Christian Watson, kind of looked like a real receiver for the first time all year. Actually caught the ball. But Dallas's defense didn't look great. They kind of, maybe they slacked off. Who knows what happened there in the second half. But that was a surprise for sure, because Green Bay was looking like they were spiraling pretty badly. Right. And so it's another one that kind of surprised me last week.
Now the Cowboys are going to cowboy, right?
Yeah. They usually wait till the playoffs to do it, though. Let's see. Buffalo, Minnesota. I don't think that was as big a surprise. I mean, I know I had Buffalo winning, but
it had the most ridiculous. It was most it's like Buffalo pretended to be the Ravens, and like, oh, we're gonna get a safety,
right?
Or it should have been a safety, but he fumbles the snap.
Right.
Oh yeah, and then Buffalo goes and just drives down the field in overtime. Looks like it's over, and then Allen just throws a horrible interception.
It was a terrible decision. Like, it wasn't like the DB made a good play on the ball. I mean, he literally just threw it right to him in a position where he couldn't have thrown a touchdown there. There's no way, So that was really a poor decision at the end of the game by Josh Allen. And but also, Minnesota made some really good plays to get back into the game. A long run, a couple great catches. Justin Jefferson is just amazing in that game. So he really helped them there in the fourth quarter. Let's see. Houston played pretty well against the Giants. So that was kind of a surprise, is that, Houston, they just hang around. And
Yeah, they don't get blown out too often there.
Right. But they, obviously the Giants still win that game. Tampa beating Seattle. I know I picked Tampa in that game, but, really Seattle was playing so well. That was a hard one to pick, but that was a ugly game.
Well, that's what. Oh my gosh, it's just okay. So the Bucks win in Germany. We've already talked about Seattle like traveling forever to get there.
Right.
Now the national media is like, the Bucks are back. They're Super Bowl contenders. I'm like, no, they still looked bad.
Yeah, they didn't look good at all. And
Just like, okay, I'm sorry.
Fournette's hurt.
Yeah, you've got the Falcons, Panthers, and Saints in your division. So it's like, who is like the luckiest quarterback in all of football, right? Brady, when he's with the Patriots, the teams there are garbage.
Right.
Now he goes to the Buccaneers, all the teams are garbage.
It's kind of funny though, also how everybody in the AFC East is good this year.
He's good now. Right? Yeah.
Well, and Buffalo was making a return. Miami was obviously on the uptick, So that was kind of funny to see how the AFC East is right. Really kind of one of the strongest divisions right now in football.
Well, I think, is it that all 4 teams are in the playoffs right now?
Right now, right. Yeah. I mean, obviously they have to play each other coming down the road, so that's going to change. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy that all 4 teams have winning records. 2 of them are 3. All 3 of those, they're up there at what, 7 and 3 or whatever, 6 and 3. So that is kind of interesting for Brady. Now he plays in just the crappiest division again. But the thing about Tampa, I will say, is they have so much talent on their team that they are dangerous if they're playing well. They do have a lot of talent on that team. So that's good. And then, kind of just finish off recapping here. I know it's biased to talk about Chicago, but Justin Fields right now, the way he's running the ball specifically as well, it's just kind of crazy. Another 150 yards last week, almost 200 the week before. He's doing most of his damage on the ground in the last like 4 or 5 games. Taking the lead, past Lamar Jackson for rushing yards this year. And he's
going for the record for most rushing yards by quarterback.
Yeah, he's trending that way.
Khalil Herbert is out for at least 4 games.
Right.
But then let's preface, it was the Lions defense.
Right. Yeah, and it was Miami the week before, and it's so it's not it, but at the same time, he's rushed for like 70 plus or 80 plus yards in the last 5 games or so against everybody. So I mean, even if he's not hitting 150, he's been hitting 100, average at least. So I think it's actually fun to watch him, so people who haven't seen him play, Wes alluded to this earlier. He is kind of a freak when it comes to how athletic he is and how big he is and the way he runs the ball. It's pretty impressive. So I don't think you can have your quarterback running all year though. So that's going to be a problem if they can't get him some help.
Not sure, like Josh Allen size or.
But he's pretty close. Fields is a big dude.
Yeah, well, it's kind of crazy because like I was watching like the Eagles game and like Hurts doesn't slide either. He just goes and just like a running back. And it's kind of crazy, like the quote unquote new kind of quarterback. And they're like, we don't need to slide. We're just going to go head first.
Well, yeah, and they're big guys, and I think they're more they have better muscle mass. You look like, say, Mariota, for example. Like he used to be really great at running the ball and throwing the ball in college, right? What happened when he came to the NFL? He's not big enough. He's not thick enough to do that.
Right.
But these guys coming in, did you see Josh Allen in the end of the Minnesota game when he just is like he had those 2 runs and the one he just like
I'm just gonna go.
he just puts his head down and just runs the dude over and gets another 7 yards, dragging this guy along, and it's a linebacker.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, that's it's a different body style for them now, and it's fun to watch. I think, especially when you get these guys that are athletic to go on top of it, like Hurts, and Fields and Lamar Jackson, who were at any time they could go for 80.
Yeah. Daniel Jones.
Yeah, the sneaky Daniel Jones. So I was explaining, there is a thing about Daniel Jones where, yes, he is good, has good feet, and he runs the ball well, but he's what you call a pocket runner, meaning that he gets back in the pocket and he goes straight ahead out of the pocket when he sees a hole, or something like that. Where Fields, like, you're just going to give him the ball with you pull a guard out in front of him, or have the running back lead him out around the corner, and you're not losing anything than if you have a great running back, right? Where you're not going to line up Daniel Jones too often or all game, just be like, okay, well, here comes Daniel Jones off tackle again. But he's a great out of the pocket runner is what he is. He gets back there, he finds a gap, and he exploits it. A lot like Mahomes, except Mahomes does it like running around in circles.
Yeah. But Mahomes did do like a few runs. Was it the last game?
Right. Yeah.
No, it was the game before against the Titans. He did that.
And we saw it in the playoffs from him in recent years where, he'll run the ball, but I think
he'd rather throw it 50 yards.
Teams know that you got to play back, right? Or they're expecting pass, so he's kind of running with like nobody around, they're not spying him that often like they would do with Jackson or Fields.
Well, yeah, because they know, like, if he does that and then someone comes up on him, then he leaves someone open, and then he's going to throw it to the open guy.
Yeah, he's going to pick you apart. So that's just in general, I'd say just the running of the quarterbacks now is changing the game a lot. You see a lot of guys scrambling now. Most of your quarterbacks, I think, these days are a threat on the ground, at least that you can't just, forget it. It's not like Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady.
You see where Brady, they tried to throw a pass to him and he couldn't even run.
So well, I mean, come on, dude. He's our age. Like, that's the thing. It's like, at some point, it doesn't matter how good a shape you feel you're in. Like, father time.
Well, then what was like Fournette doing? Okay, I'm going to throw it against their number one corner, right?
Right.
And it's
well, the whole play call was bad, and like he underthrew it, and Brady was. You could tell he wanted to come back to the ball, but his body wasn't agreeing with him. That's why he fell. He's like, it's short. I better come back. His body's like, nope, you're just going down, buddy.
Yeah.
And so that's, but again, what can you say? Look at this dude. This guy's been playing, for forever. So big swing there though for you. You made up quite a few games in week 10 there.
Yeah, thank you, Cardinals and Lions and Steelers.
Well, it's crazy. Like, so the Saints, like I knew that I didn't have a great chance at that one. I also took Cleveland, which I knew wasn't really going to win, but I was hoping,
You said that was the upset of the week.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. That's what, but so when it doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. The Chicago-Detroit game, I mean, Chicago should have won that game. I actually feel like they're trying to lose. So that was a close game, obviously. Detroit getting the win at the very end. So there's definitely some games that.
The battle of the backups, you had the Cardinals and the Rams. Colt McCoy, man.
That was a horrible game, too. That was just horrible to watch.
And the Rams have no first round pick. They lose Cooper Cup.
God. Yeah. And there's people still talking about them making the playoffs.
Nah, they're done.
Looks that way.
They haven't looked good at all this whole year, even.
No, they definitely haven't. So let's jump into week 11 here. Let's see. So Tennessee at Green Bay. This game got more interesting, I think, with Green Bay's performance in the second half last week. What do you think?
I'm still taking the Titans here because I don't know if the Packers can really stop Derrick Henry, and the Titans do have a really good defense also. Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Cowboys defense, but yeah, yeah, I got the Titans as the road underdog, probably winning by 3.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth on this one, and it looks like Green Bay is going to be without Aaron Jones most likely. So I think I went back to Tennessee on this one as well. The key here is how well Derrick Henry runs the ball. You know, if Derrick Henry has a good game, I think Tennessee wins this game.
He didn't, and they still beat the Broncos though.
Yeah, the Broncos defense is not bad though. I think they do get. I don't know if they get enough credit for their defense as a whole. You know how well they play as a whole defense. So I think that was a good test for Tennessee to say, hey, here's what happens when we come up against a defense that plays the run really well, or just a good defense overall. And I don't know that Green Bay's defense has played well enough this year to really stop them. So I got Tennessee by a touchdown. It'll probably be a slow game starting off. It's going to be cold, and the run game is going to dominate there. Let's see. Chicago at Atlanta. I really didn't want to pick Chicago here because I actually don't want them to win. I want them to get a better draft pick, but I went with Chicago here just because Atlanta's defense is not great. I think it's going to be another high scoring back and forth because Chicago's defense is horrible right now, and but they're scoring a lot of points, and Atlanta's going to give up a lot of points. So I in a back and forth, hopefully Chicago holds on to the win for this one, and I got Chicago by 3.
I too have Chicago by 3. I just think it's the Falcons just did not look good against the Panthers. I think their magic has kind of ran out from the earlier in the season, and it's trending towards Desmond Ridder time. So yeah, I got the Bears by 3 also.
Yeah, and the thing with Atlanta is they're kind of still in the playoff hunt though.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because that's how bad the NFC is. I mean, when you look at it right now, Atlanta could still even win their division,
right,
and go as a division winner. But even if they don't go as a division winner, right, you've got outside of the NFC East, the Packers at 4-6, the Falcons at 4-6, and then the Cardinals at 4-6. And then you got Seattle, San Francisco, and then the whole NFC East, and then your division winners. So it's not like there's a lot of chance for it, but it's also not out of the realm of possibility for the Falcons.
Can't be losing to the Panthers though.
Yeah, I mean that was, and they played really horrible, and it, granted,
it was Thursday night.
The Thursday night weather was horrible. It wasn't the best conditions, but they didn't look good at all. And so, I want Chicago to win, but I don't want them to win. I hate the stealing because they're not making the playoffs. So every win just hurts their
right,
their draft position. But it's good for confidence. So I don't want to see them lose too much. I love to see Justin Fields gaining back confidence or getting some confidence rolling. So hopefully the Bears win that one. Let's see. What's this next one I got here? So this is Buffalo, uh, Cleveland at
Cleveland.
Buffalo. Yeah. So I took Buffalo here, obviously at home. Cleveland, I don't think they're that great. Buffalo, I think, needs this game to get some confidence back because people keep talking about how, they may not be the best in the division anymore, or, they might not win the division. Um, I mean, Grant, they turned the ball over. They lost a big lead in a game they should have won. And so I don't know why people are, they keep talking about Buffalo. Buffalo, I still think is the best team in the AFC. So I got them beating Cleveland by 10 at home at least.
This one's an interesting one. This is one I wouldn't put any money on because there's talking about 6 feet of snow.
Oh, Jesus. That's awesome.
So I don't know, like that just then the kind of you don't know what you're gonna get then. But yeah, I'm taking the Bills. I just but yeah, if there's like a bunch of snow on there, then you have no idea what's gonna happen. But
Well, you almost kind of want to lean towards the running game at that point, which you got Chubb on the other side.
well, the Bills got Josh Allen though.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think in a snow game, you'll see him use his feet a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And straight line running of like Gabe Davis and Diggs, that will be interesting.
that'll be fun to watch. I mean, I kind of hope for that. It'll be real fun to watch. Let's see. Philadelphia at Indianapolis. What do you got?
This Eagles are coming out strong here. It's probably going to be, I think they're going to win by 21. They just played a horrendous game. They did everything wrong and they still had a chance. They had just as many turnovers as they've had all season.
Right.
That ridiculous Quez Watkins one, that was just bad. I mean, that changed the game right there because yeah. So, but yeah, I think the Eagles, the Colts are riding high after beating the horrible Raiders. So Jim Irsay's talking trash. So I think it comes back down to life this week when they play a real team.
Yeah, it's interesting. They bring in Jeff Saturday. Obviously, they win, and now instead of like it's the worst coaching move ever, people are like, oh, Saturday, he could coach, and it's like it's the media, man. You guys are whatever is happening and trending at the time, but they put Matt Ryan back in, and then they win. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think Matt Ryan is the greatest quarterback in the world, but like, why? I don't understand why you took him out in the first place.
To lose games.
But then you put him back in now to win. That's like,
well, they did that so Jeff Saturday looks like a genius.
Right. But yeah, I don't think they have a chance of beating a Philadelphia team who's going to come out and play with some purpose here. And it's inside. It's basically Philadelphia putting their track shoes on, and I don't know that Indianapolis has the personnel to stop them. And so I think easily Philadelphia here by 10 or more. So up agreement so far. Let's see. How about the Jets at New England? What do you got here?
This one's interesting to me because they got the Jets as the underdog here. Pats are favored by 3.5. I get it probably because it's about Zach Wilson going up against Belichick. But that Jets defense is playing really tough, and I don't trust Mac Jones at all. So I'm going with the Jets here by 4.
Yeah, this is a really tough one. I think borderline game of the week here. Just because it's a divisional battle, right? 5-4 against 6-3. They're right there with each other battling for the division. It's in New England, which I kind of think that gives New England the edge. I don't think either team can play good, can play bad throughout the game, even, they're not even streaky, like having good and bad games, like we won 2 in a row, we lost 3. I feel like these teams, like sometimes they can do it in the middle of a quarter, where you just don't know what you're going to get from them sometimes. So this was a really tough one to pick. And I think I landed on New England just because it's at home. So I'm going to go with New England here by, a touchdown. So there's a swing game right there. First one of the week. I need that one to make up some of this ground I lost. So don't let me down, Belichick. Rams at New Orleans. Both of these teams just look horrible. I mean, I had a hard time picking like the worst of the worst, but with what the Rams are going through right now and what they're missing at home, I just got to take New Orleans, in a close, ugly game, New Orleans by 3.
Yeah. This one will probably end in a tie.
0-0.
But yeah, I'm agreeing with you just because the Saints are at home. The Rams are just, we don't know if Stafford's going to be there. Cup is out. So, yeah, I got the Saints by 3.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the Rams are missing so much, but then like the way New Orleans played last week, like you almost don't want to bet on them either, right?
Yeah.
Like they just look horrible sometimes. But yeah, I think New Orleans, they play well at home usually. So we got to take them there. Detroit at the Giants. You got there.
I'm going. I know it's weird because we expect them to start losing sometime, but then their schedule is so easy. I'm going with the Giants because they're at home. Because they just play nice ball control. Dayball just knows how to run an offense, and so yeah, I got the Giants by 3.
Well, it's in New York as well, right? So
Yes.
Buffalo's getting snow.
Yeah. Well, Buffalo is a different New York, though.
Right. It's definitely far away, but usually the East Coast is getting hit. If it's getting hit.
And technically, it's New Jersey is where they play.
Right. They definitely have their fair share of cold weather up there. But at home, I just can't see Detroit going into New York and winning this game. I think you're right with, they run the ball really well. They control the ball. Detroit's defense is bad. Their offense can score points, but the Giants' defense is playing better than it really is. So, all that said, at home, I'm taking the Giants by a touchdown at least. See, Carolina at Baltimore. What do you think on that one?
I don't know where I didn't write that one down, but that's easy it's going to be the Ravens. Yeah. Ravens by a lot. I don't even know what the spread is. I didn't write this one down.
That's how unimportant it was.
Where are you? Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. The Ravens are favored by 13. That's a good number because you know what? Baker Mayfield starting.
Jeez.
So, yeah, I got the Ravens by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you look at Carolina, they beat Atlanta last week, and Foreman ran the ball really well. And they're like, oh, Carolina's coming around, but I just don't think that going into Baltimore is going to be a good situation for them.
Baltimore's coming off a bye.
They're nice and rested. Roquan is a chance to acclimate with the defense, which is going to help them stop the run game, which I think is one of their weaknesses, which is why they probably went out and got him. And so looking at all that, I think Baltimore's covered. I have them at 14, so I do think they cover that. Let's see. Oh, here you go. The Commanders at Houston, game of the week.
And I think this is why Wes is not on here because I don't think he said that he would never pick the Texans or the Commanders. So then he's at a loss here because the two teams are playing each other.
He has to pick one of them, right?
Yeah, or he goes with the tie, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's been with the tie with Houston before.
Yeah. I'm going with the Commanders. I just think Heineke has been playing real well. They got McLaurin. Their defense is solid. I just don't think the Texans they're going to be in games, but they're not going to win very many games. So yeah, I got the Commanders winning by 5.
Yeah. The Washington's defense is better than they get credit for. Their running game is solid. You know, it's not the greatest, it's not the worst, but I think Heineke, he can be good and bad, but McLaurin is definitely looking a lot better as of recent, especially since Heineke's been starting, which is interesting. And so it's I just don't know that Houston has the firepower to outscore them. So I think Commanders by at least a touchdown here, even though it's in Houston. We'll see. This one's it's still kind of hard because I think Houston does play well. But the Commanders kind of need this game to keep sticking around, you know. And going into Houston as a should win game, I think they'll get it done. All right, well, I'll let you pick this one first. Las Vegas at Denver.
I actually hadn't picked a winner yet because I was going to see what you're going to do, but I think it's going to be the Broncos because it's a home game. I showed you the stats that the Raiders have given up a higher QBR than the best QBR rating ever in a season.
Right. Yeah, you know, I saw that. I think the average or no. What was that one? I don't know if that's when you showed me, but I saw another one where they're giving up 107 quarterback rating.
It's but Mahomes had in the record-breaking year, he had 105.8.
Right. Yeah.
The Raiders are giving up 107.
That's crazy.
But it's Carr's fault, right? And it's
right.
This defense is monumentally bad. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I mean, they could score 30 something points and I still wouldn't trust them. They made Russell Wilson look really good. Everyone was like, "Oh, Russell Wilson is back," after he played the Raiders, and then he sucked again.
Right.
So this is going to be the talk of the town again, where they're going to say Paul Hackett and Russell Wilson have figured it out and they're going to play really well. Yeah, it's a home game for the Broncos. That's why I think both these teams suck.
Man, I didn't think this year I'd hear you pick Denver over the Raiders this year. You told me that at the beginning of the season, I'd say no way.
Yeah, I mean, the way they played if it was like they played in the first game, then I'd be like, "Oh man, yeah, the Raiders will just run it down their throats." But the way they looked, man, you can't lose to the Jaguars, the Colts, and the Saints.
Dude,
I mean,
it's rough. Just because I mean, all of us thought, and I think a lot of people thought, you know, that the Raiders were a potential team to go to the playoffs and maybe even win a couple games in the playoffs, you know, with a chance at that at least. But they have just looked so poor this year. It's really hard to watch. Like I already knew the Bears was gonna suck, so I'm okay with it. You know, I made my peace before the season started. But man, yeah, and I hate I didn't I think I'd be picking this year, but I also got to take Denver in this game because it's at home, you know, and the way the Raiders are playing right now, it's hard to pick them against a decent Denver team, at least on defensively. You know, they did a good job stopping the run against Tennessee. So, you know, if Las Vegas can't run the ball and mix it up, then they're in real trouble because Denver's secondary is nice.
Well, this is the thing is if Carr talks like, he loves his team and he wants to be here. They need to win some games so they aren't in the first few draft slots,
Right.
because then it gets tempting of taking Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, right? I mean,
Absolutely. Because, I mean, look, if you come to the end of this year and you're a top 5 pick, you get out of Carr's contract by cutting him. You know, they can cut him as long as they cut him before the Super Bowl. They'll save millions and millions of dollars and not take that bad of a cap hit, next year. So yeah, I'd be a little worried if I was Carr.
mhm.
But yeah, that's and I don't think Denver, plays great in this game. I just think that their defense is solid. They'll do enough to beat the Raiders. I think it'll be a close game. I think the Denver only wins by a short margin. I only have them by 3. But you never know with the Raiders who's going to show up. So could be a blowout. been rough year, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Dallas at Minnesota. This was an interesting game too. Because this can Dallas kind of bounce back from that game in Green Bay where you give up a big lead, you play well and you still lose, and now you go to a team Minnesota who's coming off a big game at Buffalo and they look confident. Their defense didn't play super great, but they played well enough. But their offense is looking like a machine. I mean, I hate to say Kirk Cousins is out there doing it, but he is. He threw some really good balls in that Buffalo game.
He had
Couple
some
of
lucky
those.
throws too because he's got Justin Jefferson. But
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have a Justin Jefferson, but the one he threw to hit him down on the goal line late in the game, I mean, that was a dot. That's a hard throw to make. And so he is throwing the ball pretty well. So I don't know. I got to go with Minnesota here. It's at Minnesota. I know Dallas's defense is good. They're coming around. Pollard. I hope they don't put Elliott back in. Pollard is just playing really well. So, but I'm still taking Minnesota here by a touchdown at home.
yeah, this is crazy. I was looking at this, and the Cowboys are favored on the road.
Right. So crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Minnesota hasn't played the toughest schedule is the
Right.
problem.
Well, and then it's interesting because Minnesota came back from a big deficit and Cowboys gave up a big deficit. So it's kind of a which one is the misnomer of the two. But I just think, yeah, you got to take the Vikings at home. Do I really trust the Cowboys? And that's the thing is, I still don't trust them. They're gonna, I think, have a nosedive at some point. Maybe next year when they have Sean Payton be different, but yeah, I got the Vikings by 3 here.
Yeah, it also makes you wonder, because they played well in Green Bay, at the beginning of the game, but then they kind of fall off. It's like, how good is Dallas outside of that, in temperature, and how is that going to affect them going to the playoffs? Because you got the Giants and you got, Philadelphia. You got these, they play in the East, but they play in a dome, in Texas. So maybe Dallas should get moved out of that division. I don't know.
They probably want to be in the South.
Right. I mean, everybody wants to be in the South at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah. So that it is a question. I think that I don't know that Dallas falls off yet. I think it'll happen closer to the playoffs or maybe in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. I still think Minnesota wins, though.
Well, yeah, because the Cowboys have some they still got,
Yeah, they have the easiest schedule.
yeah, they got the Colts, the Texans, the Jaguars. Yeah, still to play. So I think
Yeah.
you kind of guarantee that the Cowboys will make the playoffs. We'll just see what they do in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. And that's what the team I was expecting to fall off was the Giants, and they haven't yet. That's been probably the biggest surprise for me on the NFC are the Giants.
It's good coaching.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, and they're just playing well on both sides of the ball too. I think that's what makes the Giants. That's what keeps them winning. They're not reliant on just Saquon Barkley, or they're not just relying on their defense playing good every game. They have a really good balance. Let's see. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. This is hard because Pittsburgh wins last week, but then they beat New Orleans. It was terrible. But you feel like, oh, Pittsburgh, they might be back a little bit, but this one is just hard. But then you're like, it's in Pittsburgh. Cincinnati, I think, needs this game. I think this is a must win for Cincinnati. Even, being short, Jamar Chase, I still think Cincinnati wins this game. So I'm going to take Cincinnati, by 5. I think it'll be a little bit back and forth at the beginning, but Cincinnati will pull it out in the end.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The Bengals are coming off a bye, so they're, a little bit more rested. They're probably still upset about week 1,
Right.
losing that game. But yeah, TJ Watt's back, Highsmith. They've got 2 guys that coming on the side, so Burrow better get rid of the ball quick. But yeah, I got the Bengals by 3. So they don't cover, but they win.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Pittsburgh, like, they have a good team. Like, they're not the greatest at every position. They're definitely weak at quarterback, right? But you look at their receiver. Like, I would love to have their receivers. Like, I think they got good receivers. Deontay Johnson, Pickens plays really well. And then Najee Harris, of course, is a strong back. I know he hasn't had the same year, but I don't think that's all his fault. So Pittsburgh definitely has weapons on both sides of the ball. So they're one of those teams that you just don't want to play, Let's see. Kansas City at the Chargers. What do you think there?
I heard I think I read something where Allen and Williams are practicing on a limited basis, but they're still not going to be 100%. And you can't go against the Chiefs, especially with the Chargers head coach. So I'm got the Chiefs winning by 7 on the road, but it's not even a road game. The Chargers don't really have a home stadium.
Right. It is flying, quite a bit for them though. You got to go back to the West Coast. This is a hard one because, I looked at that same thing, and I really want Keenan Allen to play because I picked him up in fantasy, but the Chargers, even without them, without their top receivers, they still look tough. And Austin Eckler, man, this guy's an animal. Whether it's running the ball or catching out of the backfield, he's one of the best to do it right now at that position, at the running back position. And I think this is a must win for the Chargers. So this is a swing game here because I'm going to take the Chargers. If they don't win this game against Kansas City, I don't feel like they have a chance to win the division. And so if I'm their coach, which I don't like their coach at all, so maybe he's not the guy to say should be doing this. But if I'm their coach, like, that's what I'm pitching this week. I'm like, this is our season right now. If we don't win this game, we can't win the division. So that's what
go for it on 4th down every time.
Right. No, I mean, he's wild, man, and I can't stand the guy. But I'm just saying, if I was their coach, he should be pushing that, because I really believe that for them, that this is their chance to get back in this division. It's either they make it or break it here. So for that reason, I'm taking the Chargers. So that's one of few swing games we've got this week.
Yep.
Let's see. So last Monday night game, San Francisco at Arizona. I know it's at Arizona. I don't think that matters for this game because San Francisco, I think, is starting to pick up momentum right now. And I think they're just going to continue with that momentum, especially with Mitchell coming back. Like, that 1-2 punch looked really good, and I think it's going to look better. as the season progresses, Mitchell McCaffrey. And as long as Jimmy Garoppolo can just be a game manager, which he honestly is what he's good at, right? Their defense is just so good. So Arizona, they look better, right? Their weapons are coming around a little bit, but there's so much arguing and fighting going on that sideline between Murray and receivers and just everybody. Like Kingsbury, it's out of control, man. Like get control of your team. So
Murray might not
San
even
Francisco.
play.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, San Francisco is going to win easily. Can you imagine though, like now that they can put Mitchell, McCaffrey, and Samuel all in the field at the same time, what they can do?
Well, because if you Matt, because McCaffrey, you could split out as a wideout is the problem, right? So you line those two up in the backfield and then you motion him out. Then so now you get to read their defense, right? You get to see what kind of defense they're running based on your motion. And now you've got McCaffrey out there, playing a receiver who can do just as much, and then Debo on the other side, or on the that's just brutal.
Imagine if the Niners wanted to take a Trey Lance and would have gone with like a Justin Fields, what they would be doing.
Oh man, yeah, because you got a line that protects him way better. Like Fields' advancement has really been hindered in Chicago, but you see what he's starting to do. Yeah, imagine what he did if he came in with confidence in a team that really wanted him and had a good line to protect him, and had success early. Like imagine his confidence level would be through the roof. But yeah, I mean, what a waste. I mean, we don't know it's a total waste with Trey Lance yet, obviously, because he's out for the season. So we won't know unless he comes back, in a couple years later and how he develops down the road. But at this point, it looks really bad. Like
and that's like being a Raiders fan. I'm so scared of taking a quarterback early.
Yeah.
Well, because think about it, for the Bears, it looks like they're hitting on Fields, but they missed on Trubisky.
Oh yeah. Yeah, big time.
And so,
well, and it's not. I mean, they haven't really hit on Fields yet. He's
right.
just starting to turn the corner into, what they hoped he would be. I think he's actually turned into more of a running back quarterback than they thought he would ever be.
Right. Well, so with that line, he kind of needs to be.
Yeah, because he's just running for his life sometimes. So yeah, that's interesting. I kind of want to see what happens with Trey Lance down the road. Can he come back from this injury? Right? Can he get confidence and get back into it? But it's not looking good for him for sure. But San Francisco, I think, wins this game, pretty easily. I only got them by 7, but it could be more. It depends on who plays for the Cardinals and how put together their team is. Like they're just crazy right now. So another so what do we got? How many swing games we got? Let's see. We got one. I think we only got 2 swing games. Is that it?
The Pats, Jets, Chiefs, Chargers. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
That's it. All right. Well, so because I mean, overall, you definitely gained some ground. You picked up 5 games last week. So that's a big swing there.
I needed it.
Yeah. Well, that was just a rough week, top to bottom for me. I picked some long shots, but then also like the teams that I thought were going to win didn't. So it was pretty wild week.
Yeah, because I think it's pretty much all the swing games went my way almost, and
right.
All my losses were ones that we both
that we had the same exactly. Yeah, it was that was tough. But HSC Podcast. Did you see me pull it out on Monday night?
That was crazy. I was like, oh man, Steve's gonna lose, and then I'm like, what?
Oh man, it was crazy. I was so happy. I was like, Terry McLaurin just pulled it out for me in Monday night. Keep me at the top of not just my division, but the top of the.
Yeah. You're the highest
record.
scorer. I'm the second highest scorer, so we're 1 and 2, and we're both winning our division, so that's good. I took care of Orange Crush for you to move.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, he didn't have a very good week. His
Oh.
team didn't score like it normally does. That's for sure. And so that's the problem, I guess, when you have like too many players on the same team.
Yeah.
We've got multiple Denver
Well,
receivers, multiple Miami receivers.
and then you luck out because you're playing them this week with Miami on a bye.
Oh, nice. I haven't even looked yet. So I gotta get my team adjusted here. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty tough division on down on my side. But that helped that you won that game because that gave me some breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like Big Mike is just
Give
spiraled
him up.
completely off. Yeah, he's done. But Wes is moving back into second, so he's on his way up in your side.
Yeah, because he's started playing for him and stopped playing for the other guys.
Right. So maybe we'll get a playoffs after all.
Yeah.
That's good stuff there. Yeah, fantasy's been interesting lately. I was looking at a lot of these fantasy, podcasts, listen to some of this stuff and see what people are talking about. Who are some of the players that people should be looking at, or what are some fantasy tips you got going this week?
Well, I mean, you gotta be. This is the one where I don't know. Is it gonna actually be Allen Robinson, or is it gonna be Van Jefferson?
Right, right.
Rams.
So with Cooper
Because
Cup going out,
somebody's got to get some production for the Rams. Jefferson's more of a home run hitter, so I don't know if it's going to be him. He might get you like 3 catches, 100 yards. So that's a tough one to pick. But like, where's Robinson been the whole season?
yeah, I expected him to have a lot more production this season for sure than he's had. But now with Cooper Cup, like you got to look at one of them, right? So there's got to be a play there. Um, Looks like Fournette, he might not be playing.
Yeah, and he was losing touches to the other running back anyway, the rookie.
Right. Well, they're on bye this week, but I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how long if he's going to be able to come back for the long run there. So maybe looking at who's his backup, because White was getting a lot of catches, and then but I saw that on the waiver wire though too. A lot of people talking about that rookie. Tony Pollard, what do you think with Ezekiel? Yet is he going to come back? Like, is Tony Pollard still going to continue to be a good play? Because he's been a great play since Zeke's been down.
Yeah, that's a tough one because I feel like they're going to split carries.
Right.
But if you don't have a bunch of bell cows, then it shouldn't matter. And so, I mean, I could see White, or I mean, Pollard being one to still keep on your team.
Right.
Depending on who else you have.
How about the Green Bay running back situation?
Actually, Aaron Jones has no designation, so he's playing.
So he's gonna play, huh?
Yeah, I'm looking at him now because he's on my team. He's doesn't have a designation for Thursday's game versus the Titans, so
Yeah, they had they have a rookie too that hit the waiver, or people saying if he's on your waiver wire to pick him up. So that was one I saw on there. Let's see. Anybody else? So Keenan Allen, obviously Williams, they're still both listed as questionable.
yeah.
So what does that do for your receivers there? Because there's Palmer, right? And then what's the other guy's name?
Carter,
Carter,
right?
Yeah. So either of them can have big games. I think neither of them I don't think are gonna have like a big yardage plays at the time, but I think they both can get a lot of catches, maybe like that 6-7 catches. Either of them could pull that in. So if you're looking for like a flex, you have somebody on bye, maybe grabbing one of those Chargers receivers if they're available.
One to look at too, just because of the way he played last time. Mac Hollins
Yeah.
might be a pickup because Surtain is going to be on Adams. So
Yeah, he's available in most leagues. That's definitely someone to look at. Is St. Brown playing again for Detroit? I know he got a little banged up again. Is he listed as playing?
He has no designation, so he's good.
Let's see. So Carolina, Foreman, I know he's available in a lot of leagues. He had a big week. So that might be a good, filler for a bye if you're got somebody sitting on bye week this week.
And I mean, still AJ Dillon, just in case that Aaron Jones is kind of banged up.
Right.
Brian Robinson for the Commanders. I think he's going to start getting most of the carries. He's available in a lot of leagues still. Another running back, Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs. They've kind of gone away from Edwards-Helaire. So
yeah. So I noticed that too. And then they're probably already picked up, but you might want to look at playing, Boyd and T. Higgins. Obviously there's a lot of production there that Jamar Chase is passing over. So there's a couple of good ones there. So
and Hayden Hurst.
Yeah, Hayden Hurst, good tight end play. So there was another tight end that they were talking about. Remember where it's from though.
No, Higbee.
Yeah, he might be a good play.
I like Dulcich from Denver.
Evan Ingram has given good points. I haven't played him. I've had him on a bench, but he's always given a decent amount. He might be out there as a tight end play. I don't think you're missing a lot of tight ends this week on bye though, because you think about in Jacksonville, they're on Tampa Bay, Seattle, Miami. So not a lot of tight ends are going to be missing.
Just in our league though, it's kind of crazy. You've got Freiermuth from the Steelers, Higbee, Hurst, Dawson Knox, Dulcich. They're all available. Foster Moreau, since Waller's out. There's lots of tight ends available. So
yeah, I just dropped a couple of them. I was tight end heavy. So I got rid of Knox. But yeah, it's shape him up into a good week fantasy. So there's some good tips there. Who are you playing this week?
I got Anthony.
So Wes changes the team for him. That's probably a win, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got Josh. So that's going to be a big one. I need to win this one.
Yeah, we got 4 weeks left.
Yep. Getting to the playoffs. All right, good stuff. Any final wrap up?
Nope, just being a Raider fan, I'm looking forward to the draft.
I was looking forward to the draft before the year started, so at least you got a few weeks to actually enjoy, or not enjoy, at least watch.
Yeah, now because the Bears didn't have first rounders because of Fields, but now they got their full.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the drafts hasn't been, because they did it with Trubisky, right? And they did it with Field, and it's like, so they got a couple high draft picks, but then it's just like they killed themselves. So with Mac, and getting Mac and things like that. It's like,
and then they drafted Roquan and then traded him.
Yeah. I think that was kind of a necessity though at this point, because they know they're in rebuild and they know they're gonna have to pay him a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. And if you got 2 picks out of them, so I'm not super happy with the Claypool trade.
Yeah, I'm not.
That one kind of disappointed me. I would rather have just taken the 2nd round pick and just grab somebody.
Drafted a receiver, yeah,
exactly. But
well,
I mean, he's big. He's a big target.
And here's the thing, though, just look at the Raiders. They traded Cooper and they traded Mack and they got all these draft picks, and it was for nothing.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Literally
that's
nothing.
definitely the way it goes. And that I wouldn't put it past the Bears to do the same thing.
Well, and then if you look, the Cowboys and the Bears got nothing too.
Mhm.
Those trades all washed because Mack's gone, Cooper's gone. Um, Everyone the Raiders drafted is going to be gone.
Right. Well, the Raiders are out there just cutting first round picks. They're like, yeah, I know we drafted you in the first round, but we're gonna cut you.
Well, Abrams is a different story because, yeah, he wasn't coming back next year because they didn't pick up his option and he
Right.
sucked in coverage.
Didn't they draft that lineman pretty high though? That they cut and Chicago
Oh,
picked up.
oh yeah, Leatherwood. Yeah, he's a first round pick. That was
Yeah.
horrendous. But thank you, Chicago, for picking him up in waivers so they got the
Right.
cap space back.
But I mean, he's not playing terrible. Like he'll be a good player eventually for Chicago, I think.
Well, he was horrible for the Raiders, even at
Yeah.
guard. I don't think he's even been playing though, Steve.
No. I mean, it just they've been talking about him, being a good future lineman for them though. Like,
Yeah.
he's fitting in well, like he's practicing well, things like that. But yeah, I don't think he's played at all actually.
No, he was on like um a leave, like a
Right.
personal leave. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
hasn't even played yet. So
He'll
I
fit
mean,
in well.
if him and Jenkins actually get to what they're supposed to be doing, then that would be good because then you'd have two young linemen, but both of
Right.
them haven't been playing up to what they should be.
Yeah, and Jenkins will come around. He's good. Like they never should have got rid of Daniels. That was stupid. Their guard. He was really good,
Yeah.
and he was still good, pretty young. But they'll be able to draft some linemen. Hopefully get another receiver, get a good position, get a good receiver there with one of their higher draft picks.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're in the top 10, you can get one of those like Jordan Addison or
Right.
the receiver from the Bucks who been hurt most of the year, but they were saying he was like the number one receiver. What, Jackson Jabba?
Yeah, for Ohio State.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got Addison going above him at this point, just because I don't think he's played a lot.
no, yeah,
But also Downs, North Carolina, he's really good. Tennessee's got two real good receivers.
yeah.
So there's a lot out there. So we'll see that. So yeah, that's first draft in a while I'm looking forward to because it's a big rebuild draft, and I just hope they don't screw it up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. Thanks for listening, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Any comments, questions, please put those in there so we can talk about stuff you may want to hear about. Who's your team? We'll break them down for you. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.